Welcome to It's a Woman's World, a show which discusses any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Hosted by Alli Naithani, and here's Alli.
Welcome to the show. Today we're going to do something a little different in that we're having a two-part show. First, we're going to talk to a guest who's been through some difficulty and adversity in her life. We're going to hear about her story. And then second, we're going to have a group discussion about what do we do in our idle time. And before we get started, I'd like to start by introducing my co-hosts. They are Nadia, Giordana. Hi, Nadia.
Happy to be back.
Good to see you. And Janga.
Hi, Alli. It's great to be here.
Glad you are here.
Thank you.
And we've got Junita Cathey. Hey, Junita.
Hey, how are you?
I am just pleased and just happy to be in summer.
Yes,
to
definitely.
tell you the
Yes.
truth. We've all got our wonderful colors on today, representing the brightness of summer. And
Yes, a little garden theme.
Yes.
And fall, too.
Oh, you
This
can
is a
introduce
fall
us to fall over there. We'll take
Please
it.
don't say that
Take
word.
it. Yeah, not yet. Right?
Yes, no, please not yet.
All right. Well, I'd like to introduce our guest today. Her name is Nikki Abramson. Welcome, Nikki.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. We're going to hear about your story, and you are a teacher, an author, and an inspirational speaker.
Yes.
All right.
Nikki, you've faced a number of challenges. I know of about a few of them, but tell us a little bit about your story. And it started at a very young age, I understand it. You turned some of those challenges into opportunities as you grew older.
Yeah, first of all, annyeonghaseyo, which means hello in Korean, and I am Korean. I was adopted from Seoul, South Korea when I was 6 months old. And it's interesting the dynamics of being an adoptee and an international adoptee as well, and realizing the struggles that you face with people thinking you're one way and you're really not. And then when I came here, at about 3 years old, I just couldn't keep up with other kids. I kept walking, and I just said, I can't do it. And my dad ended up carrying me wherever we went up until I was about 10 years old. And we found out when I was 5 that I have a rare condition called mitochondria myopathy. And that condition falls under the umbrella of muscular dystrophy. And it was really a challenge because we didn't know what to do. And doctors had told us basically that I would die when I would be 16 years old. So my parents and I lived in almost a little bit of fear, but also gratitude. And I remember the doctors saying, when I was just 6, saying, take good care of her, you have 10 years with her. And so we celebrate every day as if it were our last.
You know, I've been listening to just a national and inspirational speaker, and he was talking a lot about opposition and opportunity. Both can be exactly true and the same, it's just your outlook. Opposition, you can decide to just let it defeat you, or you can take that and you can turn it into an opportunity. Tell me about one of those things that was probably your biggest opposition, and how did you transition that into an opportunity that allowed you to live a full, grateful life?
I think it's interesting you say that because I talk about this idea of hope. And I have an acronym of HOPE. And O says look for opportunities. And so that's what I have done in my life is I've had so many obstacles where I could just say, throw in the towel and say, no, I give up. I don't know what to do. But I decided, I think, just to really look for the opportunities. What can you do with your life? So one of the biggest ones would be when I was in a car accident in just 2010, 4 years ago, in which I was bedridden for 7 months.
Wow.
And I ended up with dystonia, which is similar to Parkinson's. And I couldn't do anything. And I looked at my life and I became a little depressed and didn't know what to do, and I studied to become a teacher. But I've looked at it and said, well, I can still teach by writing a book. I can still teach by encouraging other people and mentoring people. And I had my voice, I still had the use of my hands, and so I figured, well, what can I do? And there's still a lot of opportunities that you can do.
Wow. Yeah. See, you are a mentor, you are a teacher, you are a performer, but how do you prioritize? You know, I'm so puzzled as to how can you prioritize this is what I want to do this, and how did you also come to know that you can be a performer too?
Prioritizing is so hard. I think especially for us as women, there's so many things that we are drawn to that we want to do. And I think number one for me is teaching. I've always wanted to become a teacher. So every single thing I do, and this book I would say it's an inspirational book, but really what it is it's a teaching opportunity. It's a way for me to educate other people on life's challenges and how to turn them into something positive. And performing is interesting because I was super shy growing up, and I think it had to do with the fact that being adopted and having these disabilities and not feeling like I fit in or I belonged with the world. And I just felt like an outcast. But being on stage really helped me to say, this is where I belong. This is where I could express who I am and be who I am. And it was also the only one class that I took in high school that I didn't have to have accommodations for my classes academically. And it was just a place where everyone felt accepted and belonged. So I started out in high school and just kind of got the theater bug and have been performing and teaching acting since then.
So Nikki, one of the things I was wondering as I've listening to your story is you said you were basically told by the age of 16 you could be dead. And so what happened? Obviously that didn't happen. So did you improve with your medical condition, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, unfortunately things did not improve. I have things that as a result, so for example, asthma and allergies, scoliosis, a learning disability as well, that have all come out of that. And actually, as I age, every year is harder and harder and harder for me. And my body, I'm 27 years old, but my body is actually about 20 years older than I am physically, even though I look younger. So I think that's just the biggest thing. The challenge is that my body doesn't really match up to where I'd like to be. And so every day is a challenge, but I don't think things have gotten better. It's just more of, that was the research done in the 80s, is that they said, this is with this condition, these people usually die at this age, and that's why they told me that.
A lot of times when we have a message for the world, we end up having to live that message first before we can actually deliver or minister that message.
Yes.
And so that's a prime example of your message of hope. You had to create that. You had to figure out when you were told at 10 years old or at 5 years old that you were only going to live to be 16.
Correct.
You had to first figure out how are we going to be grateful for every single day that we have and not sort of slip into this depression that maybe caused it earlier. So you had to embrace and live and learn what hope really means so that you can now teach that to the world. So when you're teaching that message of hope, are you teaching that to children? Are you going into community centers? Where are you able to deliver this message? Because I think a lot of people not only could learn a lot from that, but also just from your personal experience would encourage a lot of people that are struggling in any area of life. So where are you teaching that? Question.
I teach it to anyone and everyone. And I would say, I have 2 or maybe 3 groups that I target towards. One would be adoption agencies and anyone really in the adoption field who has adopted or looking to adopt, people in the medical field, who are doctors or nurses or just even receptionists, and that need that inspiration. And then the third one would be schools. And my heart is in with youth, and I also do some mentoring as well. And that's primarily with youth, partly because of my age, but partly it's just students, kids have this sponge. They want to learn. They just want to grow and learn anything and everything they can. So I just want to kind of spread my message out wherever I can and just be a positive light and positive example to the world. Because I think there's so many bad things that can happen to us, and it's all about how you look at the world. So I talk about the blessings you have, how to be grateful, how to be thankful for the things that you do have in your world.
Would it be fair to say that you've had a supportive family and you are now sharing that by being supportive and encouraging and helping others develop their talents and their creativity when they're facing challenges too? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, something I would love to, I usually do is really hone into families and help them, because I've had such a strong community with my family. My parents have been so supportive of me, and as well as my younger brother. And so I just want to help other families have that same support system that I had.
You kind of started the segment also giving a greeting in Korean, and as a international adoptee, your parents found that very important to keep you connected to the Korean community. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I grew up basically, well, the Twin Cities has a huge Korean adoptee population, and even adoptees in general. So there's a few camps that I attended. One was called Korean Culture Camp, which is held once a week in the summer, and just a great way to learn the Korean culture, Korean language, taekwondo, dance, cooking, you name it. And so it just was a really cool opportunity for me to pick up some words and phrases and just how people live their life in Korea, as well as children's home societies where I was adopted agency from, and through there they had a lot of opportunities as well to network and to be a resource. And so I actually now sit on a board. It's called Resource Committee of Adopted Adults, and we basically help the families that are adopted who have kids now, just to give them any resources they can and just to help provide that opportunity for them.
So you have been a performer, right, in a couple of art institutions, I believe. So
Correct.
what do you mainly focus on? What do you teach them?
Well, when I teach in arts, I teach acting, so just really basic acting. How do you be on stage? I also teach improv, which is huge. I mean, we all need improv, no matter where we're at. And I also do choreographing. So I choreograph dance. I'm not necessarily a dancer, but I have a lot of creativity and to help with choreographing pieces as well. So those are the kind of the three main things I do in the theater, but I also do modeling, commercial work as well.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, do you teach about like a Korean culture, or do you focus on any one certain kind of activity, or is it like a multicultural?
It's a multicultural. I actually am also fluent in Spanish, just from growing up in school, and I almost have a Spanish minor. So that's a huge part of me, and it's kind of interesting because sometimes people look at me like I can speak fluently in Spanish, and they get confused because I don't know very much Korean, so it's kind of a weird dynamic. But I definitely do try to incorporate a multicultural aspect to whatever I do.
We've got your book here right in front of you. Do you want to maybe hold that up for us and tell us the title of it?
Yeah, it's called I Choose Hope and Overcoming Challenges with Faith and Positivity.
You have a beautiful quote on the back of your book, right?
Yes.
Did you read that?
That's very good. Struggles.
Yes. Would you read that quote for us about the clouds?
We really like that.
Yeah, it basically just says that struggles are a part of life. And we can look at it as though we have a cloud over our heads, or we can look at it as an opportunity. And I think, a lot of times we say, oh my gosh, I have so much financial struggles, or my relationship with my husband or kids or career. And we could say this life is horrible, life sucks, like what am I going to do with my life? Or we can say it's an opportunity. And so for me, my opportunity is to help those that are overcoming challenges. So if you are struggling with financial help, maybe you can turn that around and help people who are also overcoming financial help, or a relationship or career, that type of thing.
I have a question. You said O in the HOPE stands for opportunity.
Yes.
What does the HOPE, the acronym, complete the 4 different ideas express?
Yeah, so H stands for hold on to faith. And so I think that we all have a faith in something, whether it's God or ourselves or other people or our family, career. And so in challenging times, I think we just need to hold on to that faith in whatever we believe in. So O, as I mentioned, says look for opportunities. And then P says process your learning. So I think it's really important that when we have a challenge to really reflect upon that and say, well, what am I learning from this? And what can I teach other people? And what can I do because of that opportunity, because of that challenge, I should say. And E stands for encourage the soul. So do something that's encouraging to you. And I think that a lot of times when we get to a point where we just don't know what to do with our lives, it's so important that we just do something to encourage you. And as I mentioned, I love musical theater, and I probably see, a show every month just because that it really encourages me.
Nikki, what's it like for you when as you teach or you perform and you see the impact that you make on others in front of you? What's that like?
When I see the light bulb that comes on with kids, whether I'm teaching academics or I'm teaching theater, I realize that potential that student has and the gift that I can bring to each of those students.
Okay, great. Well, we really appreciate that you came on and shared your story with us, and I'm just sitting here, you know, in a lot of admiration and your words and the things you're saying. You know Spanish, and you're just so talented, and I just want to call that out.
Very inspirational.
Very
too.
inspirational.
Very inspirational.
So thank you for
Thank you
sharing that
so
with
much.
us and really giving the message of hope.
Right.
You can do it. You can see through the clouds,
It's
right?
there.
And
Yes.
yes, you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's never easy.
It's
and
never
that's
easy.
what your story also
Yes.
says.
Yes.
It's not easy to succeed. Nobody has it any easier than you do. We
Nothing
think
is easy.
Yes.
because it's our own, uninformed perspective.
Yeah.
But it's never easy.
It
and
is
you are
never
proof
easy.
of that.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Well, we're going to kind of shift into our second topic, and I think kind of flows nicely because what we're going to talk about is what's our most productive use of what we would call idle time. And I think what's connected so nicely is that you've given us that kind of that background and that foundation to say, time can be really limited and precious. And so I think when we look at that idle time, or if we define that as maybe our free time or time where we don't have commitment or responsibility, do you think that's a good definition?
Yeah, or laid up or laid off, or just when you're suddenly have all kinds of extra time. A lot
Okay.
of different ways you can have that idle
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you won't even feel like doing, even though you have to do that. That's also considered to be an idle time.
Yeah.
I always thought, okay, I know I have to do the laundry or something,
Right.
but I never do that. I know I'm being idle,
That's right. That's a good
Yeah.
distinction right there. Yeah.
I think sort of maybe a way to always look at time, where we are in the moment. They have that saying, the present is a gift.
Sure.
So when we
Yes.
receive gifts, it's always appreciated. We take special care of it. We don't waste it. We value it. So if we look at first our present time as a gift, hopefully that will help us shape whether it's free time, whether it's time at work, time with your kids. If we really try to focus on that our time is a gift, we'll start to change our perspective on what we do with that time, so that when we do get the free time, I think even being more deliberate in planning it. As a mom, sometimes I don't plan my free time. Then you feel like you never get it because I'm not planning it. So I think maybe as we're thinking about our free time, we're being more deliberate in planning it. But what are some things that you guys do in your free time?
Free time, if you ask, suddenly nothing will come to my mind. But we have so many things. Free time means I listen to music, I dance, I read books. I really love comics. There's so many things. Like I told you, sometimes which I have certain pending things to do, I won't do it. That also I do.
That is not for your free time.
Well, and that falls more into the category of works and things you should do, yes.
Laundry is not a free time
No,
activity.
no, we agree with you on that one.
I know.
And, for me, finding playtime in the category of free time is a little different. I don't do as much of that. I usually always make the leap to turn it into learning time because that's fun for me. I like to learn something new or develop a skill that I have that's usually an interest or a passion. So to me, it is fun, but I'm learning about something or learning more about something that I love to do.
And I think going back into scheduling your free time or really identifying it. So, for instance, during a busy week in the summer, and both of us have kids that are kind of in that age where we're going everywhere, and so I may not have a week where I have free time, but then I look at the time when I'm at a soccer game or a baseball game with my kids. I'm watching them, but being outside in my lawn chair, enjoying the fact that I'm outside, I start to use that as just some of my downtime or my unwind time because I'm watching my child, but there's nothing else I'm planning. I'm not planning an activity. I'm not planning what I'm doing next. I try to just be in that moment and enjoy the fact that the sun is shining, the summer will be over before I know it, and really enjoy that moment. And that, for me, sometimes during the week when I don't have really a lot of free time, that becomes my free time. So really enjoying it, yes.
Particularly, we will enjoy after having a hectic day when we relax with a cup of coffee. That's the time I think we are making most use of my idle time.
Yes.
When I have my coffee, I got my errands done. I did all my responsibilities today. I took my kids there, all done. Now it's my time.
Yes.
And that's when you can relax when you've done the other things.
Relax
Sure.
wholeheartedly. You know what I mean? Like you are not feeling guilty or you're not. it's my time, I deserve it. So I am enjoying
Yeah.
it.
I think that key word I like to use is wholeheartedly.
Yes,
because
that's very important.
sometimes when you get that free time, you think, well, I should do this,
Exactly.
or you're pulled at this, or if I
Yes.
only, I have this time, I should take it and do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But you're right. You
Yeah,
just need to sort of
wholeheartedly.
sit there without any responsibility,
Yes.
like you were saying.
That
Junita.
you hardly get it actually,
Yeah.
you know.
How about you, Nikki? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that every day is a gift and a blessing,
Yeah.
and that, just using your time wisely is so important, kind of like what you're saying. But then also, I heard this from a friend that you need to have some me time. And I
Yeah.
think we can be so busy, wrapped up in doing laundry or taking care of the kids, that we forget to just have some me time.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to really schedule some time, say, okay, well, I'm going to take a half an hour, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is for you, and just say, hey, I'm gonna read a book, or I'm gonna listen to music, or whatever you want to do that's helpful and downtime and fun and relaxing for you.
Yeah.
Reading a book is such a wonderful thing, and we tend to get away from it.
Yes.
We forget that we can pick up a book and read a book, read your book, read a book written by a friend, or the current bestseller. I forget to do that, and that's something I've always loved to do, so that's a great reminder.
Yeah,
I know.
I was laid off from a job a couple years ago, and I was actually happy. And so my family didn't believe me, and they said that my uncle's family was calling my mom, are you sure? Like, this is weird. Like, why? Something's wrong with her. Like, she should be really sad. And why I was happy was because for the first time, I was going to consciously slow down,
Exactly.
get up in the morning, and decide, what do I want to do today? And
Exactly.
it was about, I had about 8 months of that. And I really enjoyed it. So in the context of like idle time, when you're laid off or you're just not having that responsibility like of a job, and taking that time out of life and saying, what are my goals? What do I want to do? And the freedom of that was so empowering, I have to say.
I know.
Yeah. But my family was just not sure. They were just, because it's so counter. I think that we should be busy all the time, right?
Exactly.
So have any of you faced that, or?
I think that primarily speaks to being able to identify that and being confident. You know what,
Yeah,
this is
maybe.
what I need.
Right. Yes.
Because I think so many times
Yeah.
as mothers, as women, guilt seeps in everything we do.
Exactly.
You can spend, 18 hours that day doing XYZ responsibilities. You still feel guilty when you take that
Exactly.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yes,
really
you
being
do.
deliberate about what feeds me,
Yeah.
what feeds my soul at the time, and then owning it and then celebrating. Because it's not going to be something that's feeding to everyone else.
Right.
It may not feed them, and so it can be judgmental, and they don't mean harm by it. It's just, I don't understand it.
Yeah,
So if I'm not confident in the fact that, this feeds me right now,
Yeah.
this is where I am, then we will start to have that guilt. And it comes in so easy, I think, as women.
Exactly.
It does.
Particularly
Yes.
when you're sitting down at that time, only my younger daughter or someone will come and say, "Can you play with me?"
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot say no.
Yeah.
Those kind of situations come in, even though you've done everything for them, but still, if they ask at that time, we can't say no, and I have to put my coffee down and go with her. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, where's my time?
Right, right.
Well, and you're right, enjoying that time when you first get laid off. I did have an experience like that where I was laid off, and I didn't embrace it immediately like you did.
Okay.
I spent a period of time in that situation of anxiety, and I should get right back out there, and I
Yeah.
did eventually slow down a little bit and, like you say, start planning my day, and then life started to fall back into place. But
Sure.
it took a while to get to the point where it isn't like I should get right out there and find that other
Yeah.
job, and it's difficult to make that transition.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was in a position where I wasn't forced to have to get right out
That
there. And not
helps.
everybody gets that, and that was I identified that as I'm very lucky. So let me take the most out of this. so
Make
that I
use
can.
of it,
Yeah,
yes.
I
absolutely.
think it's
I've
important
been
to
a
accept
housewife.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accept that that's where you are. And I remember it's a similar situation being laid up in the house for 7 months and not knowing what to do. do. And at that time, I had just graduated from college, and so I had all these should-dos of, you know, what people expect of you to do. So I should be applying for this job and, you know, putting my name out there and LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. And it's similar to finding a job. And I just was like, you know, I think it's really important that we accept that this is what it is and be okay with that. And, you know, even though maybe your family or friends and like not really supporting you, but you need to take care of yourself is really, really important. That self-care advocacy
Well,
is
and there
huge.
was probably so many things you wanted to do and you were
Yes.
held back from doing because you couldn't. And there's a certain frustration there in learning how to make the best out of that situation. Yeah.
But I should say I've been very lucky because since 10 years almost I've been staying home without going to job.
Sure.
I really appreciate my husband's patience here.
Yeah.
So I lost that, like a feeling, idle, like I have to look for a job. I think I have to get back to that track. Hopefully I'll get to that
Yeah.
soon.
You can
I don't
appreciate
know.
the time.
I know.
Yeah.
But you can look back at that time and say, wow, you know, you were able to be at home and all the wonderful things that offers as a mom who can stay at home. I mean, I think
That's true, but still, like she said, you still feel that little guilt inside there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Why are
It's
you
always
not,
the pull.
using that at the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to identify that free
Exactly.
time, because
Yeah.
you can
Exactly.
never,
Yes.
regardless if you're working full-time, at
Yes.
home full-time, a combination of both,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
there's always guilt. I
Yeah.
think there's
I know.
just,
There is.
but we have to be very aware of that. And then
Exactly.
if we identify those things that feed us or that are important to us or that are required of us at that time, we can start to walk in our own power or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then you don't feel so guilty.
Yeah, there is a difference because for working people, Saturday and Sundays make a difference for you because you know the difference between weekdays and weekends. For housewives,
I
you
see.
don't. When I feel that, okay, even though you work hard during the
Right.
weekdays, you still don't know the difference,
Yeah.
That I miss it, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. It
does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think during different seasons of our life, our free time looks different.
Oh,
you know?
very
Yes.
different, yes.
Yes, when your children are grown and out of the house, and you don't have that responsibility, you still have a lot of stuff that's demanding of your time, but your free time may look a little bit differently, and then you choose to spend it a certain way. The other day I was actually outside pulling weeds. I am not a gardener. As a matter of fact, I don't even know what a green thumb looks like. I mean, like I could kill a plant that was artificial. Like that's I am. But I knew the weeds need to be pulled, and it was nice outside. I'm like, you know what? It's not necessarily my free time, but it was sort of relaxing. It was an opportunity to hang out with my kids because they were outside.
I can
and
see
I
that
just
as fun.
figured it out. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
no pressure because I can't mess up pulling weeds. Like, who can, that's one thing you cannot mess up. Yeah, so I mean, but it's, okay, it was sort of downtime. I could have just sat in front of the TV, but it was sort of, unstructured,
Probably
go outside.
therapeutic.
Yes, it was actually. Then you start having these visualizations of like how weeds grow and how you don't have to plant them and how they can choke all the life out of your real, so then it started like just kind of feeding me, and it was completely unplanned, but it's again, at this stage of my life, my free time probably will look really different
Oh, definitely.
Yes,
than
definitely.
when my children are grown.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's what's cool, you said, is you were intentional about it. So, if you were hanging out with your kids, they can hang out and pull the weeds with you.
Right.
And just be your presence with you. But you made that time and you were intentional about it. I think a lot of times when we are laid off from work or laid off from medical reasons or just have some downtime, we just want to do things. We take the shoulds and we should do this and all that, but just really carving out that time, your schedule, and saying, yeah, this is for me. I'm going to do this today.
I'll walk with my dog. That makes me feel so happy,
Yes.
because she gets exercise as well as me,
There you
right?
go.
So,
Double benefit.
Yes.
I love that time.
Well, great discussion today. Thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
show. And Nikki, again, thank you for being with us today. It was
Thank you.
wonderful to
Yes,
have
yes.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
So awesome and inspiring.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we thank you for being with us today on It's a Woman's World, and we hope to see you next time.